It's late April 2024, and I'm visiting Cape Blanco State Park. Directly ahead, you can see the cliffs of the Cape rising 200 feet above the ocean. There are many interesting sights to see on the Cape and the surrounding area. Of course, there's a lighthouse, shown with the clouds rolling in this time lapse. A view from the cliffs shows the ocean rolling in against the beach down below. Looking to the south, the beach stretches far off into the distance towards Port Orford, Oregon. Looking on the north side of the Cape, there are lots of interesting offshore rock forms. Cape Blanco is located several miles off of U.S. Highway 101. This would be the turnoff from U.S. 101 south, turning right onto the Cape Blanco Road. You then travel several miles to get to the Cape. After traveling for a ways, you enter the state park. It's still some distance to get to the actual Cape and the campground. Here I've reached the turnoff for the access road to the Cape Blanco campground. But I'm going to continue straight, going to the parking lot for the Cape Blanco Lighthouse. The trail to the lighthouse is about 4/10 of a mile down a paved road. Looking straight ahead, you can probably see the lighthouse in the far distance on the relatively flat top of the Cape. Coming up the last uphill section of the trail, there's now a much better view of the lighthouse. The lighthouse was constructed in 1869 and 1870. A dense forest of fir trees that covered the site was removed before construction began. As the lighthouse is not close to a harbor, its main function was to warn ships of the reefs that extend from the Cape. After visiting the lighthouse, I headed for the campground. The main part of the campground is a single elongated loop containing more than 50 campsites. I'm traveling south on the east side of the campground, and you can see that it's densely forested. I've traveled more than halfway around the campground loop, and I'm now traveling north on the west side of the campground, the side closest to the ocean. Here's my campsite, A51. My campsite is near an access point to the coast trail. I can get to the trail by walking a short distance down the campground road. This is the access point that connects to the coast trail. I'm traveling north on the coast trail. In this area, the trail is surrounded by a dense forest. As I walk north, the landscape changes to have less trees and more shrubs. Up ahead, the landscape becomes much more open and eventually transitions to open fields. It becomes apparent that the trail is near cliffs overlooking the ocean. An aerial view from this position shows the cape jutting out into the ocean. In the distance, you may be able to see the lighthouse on the cape. As the view shifts to the left, you can see offshore rocks. I think that these rocks indicate the position of a reef that endangered shipping and was much of the reason for building the lighthouse here. I returned to this location later, in the evening, to get a time-lapse video of the sun setting over the ocean. In the morning, I returned to the lighthouse parking lot, which is also near where the coast trail goes down to the beach on the north side of the cape. The terrain on the north side of Cape Blanco has a moderate slope, allowing a trail to access the beach. Alongside the trail, I noticed a number of small, beautiful irises. I believe this is the Douglas iris, a native coastal iris. The trail leads down to a beautiful beach. You may also notice what appears to be a bunch of blue-gray rocks scattered around on the sandy beach. These are not rocks, but rather small jellyfish known as by-the-wind sailors. They have a small sail set diagonally on their upper surface. The sail allows them to tack into the usual westerly trade winds and stay at sea. But sometimes in the winter and spring, strong westerly winds push them on the shore, as they have here. When I first got on the beach, I walked south towards the Cape. As I walk alongside the rocks, I think you can get a better idea of their size. I then turned around and walked the other direction to get a good view of the rest of the beach. An aerial view of the waves rolling past the rugged and interesting rock forms. I didn't ride my bike much on this trip, but I did use it to ride down a road that goes to the beach on the south side of the Cape. It's only about 6/10 of a mile from my campsite to where the road goes down to the south beach, so I could have walked it, but I wanted a chance to take my bike out. This is the turnoff from the campground loop to the road leading to the beach. The road is often quite steep and narrow, in many places only a single lane. Although it doesn't really show up on the video, the last section of the road is particularly steep. I knew that if I rode my bike down to the bottom, I'd have to walk it back up, so I left my bike up by the parking area and walked down. If you have a high clearance vehicle, you can drive right onto the beach, and I saw a few trucks on the beach. I found the rocks and cliffs along this part of the beach to be particularly striking. So it's time for me to trudge along the beach back to my bike. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.